Hi, this is Barry Schwartz. This is the Search Buzz video recap. Today is Friday, February 4th. This is the weekly search recap we do, the Search Buzz video recap we do every week to cover the news that we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at seroundtable.com. People are going to be watching live as well, and I thought we'd get started and talk about the various things that are going on at the the past week in the SEO world. Let me just open up the chat room so people could ask me questions live. And while I do that, the main thing this week was the scraper algorithm. The scraper algorithm that Google released this week basically was responsible for having several websites, or several hundred websites, probably drop out of the Google index over the course of the week or so. I think it was released last week. I announced it on Friday, but it was released last week, probably on Wednesday night or Thursday. And I'm going to go ahead and link to it in the chat room. But basically, we have a post about this. We have several posts about this, but the main post, I want you to look at, it has all the information. It's on February 1st at seroundtable.com. And it's under the Google Updates section. If you just go to the site seroundtable.com, it's under the Google Updates section. And it basically talks about the Google algorithm that was released, which is Google's scraper algorithm. Initially, I thought it was their content farm algorithm. A lot of people were talking about how their site's not a content farm, it's delisted, and I took the wrong assumption to believe that Google released their content farm algorithm, which they announced earlier last week. And it wasn't that. We tracked down Matt Cutts, and Matt Cutts told us at Search Engine Land that the algorithm that is live is not the content farm algorithm, yet it is actually the scraper algorithm. So Google told us that basically they're removing low-quality scraper sites from their index, and that's what you've been seeing. A lot of people are complaining that their site is not low quality and it's not a scraper site, but at the same time, Google thinks you are. So the main thing is, how do you get out? If you are impacted by this, you did see a drop in ranking in the past couple days or so. It's likely related to this, and you definitely want to take a look at the threads and see what you can do to actually make changes. Again, this was probably the main thing that happened this week that you probably want to take a look at. There are ways of helping your site get out of that, and a lot of people are talking about this, and John Moo from Google responded to somebody who fell within probably this scraper algorithm, and he said if you are taking content from another site and scraping content, you definitely want to put that on a separate side of your site, meaning maybe a subdomain or a subfolder, so Google could then categorize your unique content from your scraper content. Again, this is something that we confirmed as a launch last Friday, and we talked about it in our video last Friday. Now we have more information. Again, it's not the content farm algorithm. It is a low-quality scraper site algorithm. To do a recap, this past week, actually yesterday, I posted our February 2011 Google Webmaster report. Basically, it goes through all the various things that happened over at Google in the past month or past 30 days related to what SEOs and webmasters care in terms of Google. The main things in this thread, or in this post that I have, again, I posted this yesterday, February 3rd, you can take a look at that as well, are the Google's new scraper filter algorithm, which we just discussed. Google will be going after content farms in the near future. That's going to happen. People are concerned about that. People are also concerned about enhanced duplicate content filter. Not exactly sure what that means, but people are talking about more duplicate content filters, probably related to the scraper filter. People are also worried about a Super Bowl traffic slump, which is obviously this Sunday, and snowstorms that are just crazy amount of snowstorms on the East Coast that are causing rolling blackouts across this area. So that obviously impacts traffic. At the same time, we have a list of stuff that we covered over at Google, the most important things from the PageRank update to the scraper algorithm to content farm, to how Google ranks site operators and stuff like that. It's all stuff we covered over the past videos. But if you missed it, you definitely want to take a look at this at February 3rd at seroundtable.com. Google toolbar stuff. So it's interesting. I'll get into this topic later on, but basically there's a whole thing about Bing copying Google. And what came out of that is Google going on the record once again that they do not use toolbar data to index new content, meaning they do not discover new URLs using toolbar data. And a lot of people tested this. Some people say they tested this and And it's true, Google does not index new data, new URLs from the toolbar. But Google doesn't say they don't use that for ranking factors, meaning speed factor or stuff like that. So it's not a discovery tool, but it might be used for ranking purposes. So that's something you should keep in mind. We have more information about this on February 2nd. Is one of those myths that Google does use the Google toolbar for indexing new content. According to this, Google does not. Another thing coming down the pipeline with Google is that they promise to speed up the reversal of 404 pages. So basically, what happens sometimes is you'll 404 a page, you'll decide later that you do not want that page to be 404, and by 404 I mean you're basically telling Google and the world that that page no longer exists. But what if you want that page to exist in the future? So Google's saying they hope, at least according to a new Googler, Pierre Farr, who's been a Googler for about a few weeks now, he said that Google's looking at ways to have such issues recover sooner. Meaning, if you un-404 a page or you mistakenly 404 a page, they maybe will build a tool to help Google index that un-404 page back in the index, or maybe they'll just crawl those 404 pages more often and see what happened with them. We discussed that's a topic from February 3rd yesterday at SEOroundtable.com. Google has officially changed the way they do their AdWords titles, or subtitles. Google actually confirmed this. We've been seeing a lot of this. It was covered for the past month or so, where Google was showing your title of your AdWords ad as well as the first line of your AdWords ad on the title bar. It was fairly annoying for at least me. I find it to be ridiculous, but Google's doing that. And here's a look at my screen. You can see the ad continues and continues. And basically what that shows you is that Google's automatically including that first line. And this became official yesterday when Google actually blogged about it and said this is a longer headlines for select ads. Basically, Google said starting today and over the next few days, we're changing the placement of the first description line for certain ads that appear above the search results on Google. For some ads where each line appears to be a distinct sentence and ends in a proper punctuation, description line 1 will be moved to the headline and separated by a hyphen. As a result, some top placement ads will have longer headlines. And they showed examples. Basically, in certain situations, only those top ads will have longer headlines. I personally don't like it, but Google's doing this for reasons because they say it's higher, it results in higher click-through rates. Obviously, because the blue link is much longer. But personally, as somebody who would manage an ad, I would think that would be not fair. I mean, it's not something that people actually programmed into their ad, and Google's doing things on their own. Google Hotpot. Basically, Google Hotpot is something related to Google Local. It's basically a way for friends to share places they go to, add reviews, stars, and pictures, and stuff like that. It's basically like a Foursquare of some sorts for Google. So now Google said they announced this week that they actually incorporated Google Hotpot results directly in the web search results. So that means if you do a search for local specific type of data, like restaurants or movie theaters or stuff like that, Google will show not just the local results in the main search result, but actually sprinkle on those local results ratings by your friends in Hotpot, by photos, and all the types of stuff that are Hotpot related right into the search results. That's again if you participate in Hotpot. Next up is Google has officially acknowledged the fact that their Maps reviews have a bug. Basically, a few weeks ago or several months ago, I forgot exactly when, we reported that Google Places had a way for you to for business owners to actually reply to reviews left in their Google Places profile. Sometimes those replies are not showing up, and it's frustrating, business owners. Mike Blumenfeld, who pretty much covers this space very, very religiously, said pretty much Google. It's been an issue for about 3 months now, and Google finally confirmed it on February 1st or January 31st, and they promised to fix it. The question is when. I'm not exactly sure. It's still supposedly an issue. All right, let's go to the main news this week in terms of the fight between Google and Bing. Alright, so if you haven't heard, I'm sure you've heard, basically Google did a sting operation where they noticed for some reason that weird queries or search results were showing up in Bing that were similar or strangely similar to Google's search results. They thought, or has suspicion that Bing was actually copying their search results. So what they did was, over the course of months, they actually seeded some things in the search results of Google that had no relevancy to the pages listed. Some made-up names, completely just gibberish, and seeded their index to show one single search result. They then had Googlers install a fresh copy of Windows, the Internet Explorer 8 with the toolbar enabled, and notice slowly but surely Bing was actually starting to show those single search results for no apparent reason because there's no relevancy. Only reason that would be was that Bing was discovering or sniffing out people's Google searches and then including those URLs as a discovery process in the Bing search index. Now, that's the thing about it. Bing is basically denying it, saying that we look at clickstream data no matter where the user is going. If they have it enabled, we're looking at clickstream data, and they use it as one of their hundreds of metrics for ranking purposes. They're saying, in a sense, that what Google did was basically click fraud on their search engine, which is interesting to say that. I don't see how anybody's costing anybody money. It's not like a fraud thing. But at the same time, Google's calling Bing a cheap imitation of Google. And pretty much they're just fighting with each other. It's interesting because it's been going on for a while. A lot of people think that this makes Bing look really bad. A lot of people say this makes Google look really bad because Google's telling on Bing is like a childish game. And some people think everybody looks bad out of this. So I did a poll. We have over 600 responses. 50% or so say that Bing looks horrible in here, much worse than Google. 30% says Google looks worse than Bing. 10% said both look horrible. I mean, both look really bad here. And about another 8% or 7% said they simply do not care about this and it's just a waste of time. Obviously, from Google's perspective, a web SEO perspective, to know that Bing will index content based on your Google searches is fairly interesting. If your page can't get into Bing for some reason, install IE, install the toolbar from Microsoft, do a bunch of searches. Maybe Bing will include it because they're sniffing out Google searches. Outside of that, I don't think there's any ranking benefit to it, but it's pretty interesting to see this. Anyway, this is a pretty big thing that happened in our industry. It deserves to be talked about. At the same time, it's fairly childish. Finally, talking about childish, this morning I covered a fairly funny but somewhat interesting and disturbing Webmaster help thread where a mother came into the thread and said, my son, who is a minor, is being harassed by his ex-girlfriend. Basically, I'm not going to go ahead and say the name, but you can see it in our screenshot. If you do a search for this boy's name in Google image search, up come about probably 70 or so images, exactly the same image with captions around it, all pretty much trying to make this kid, this boy, look like a horrible person. It's basically this girlfriend who was dumped, or I don't know exactly what happened, this girlfriend who's really, really upset with her ex-boyfriend, pretty much got really mad and spammed Google Images for this boy's name. And let me bring up my screen so you can see it. Here is some of the search results that I took a screenshot, and it's basically being polluted by this girl who pretty much hosted all these images on a various site. The images had been removed a couple weeks ago, but the website is actually not turning a proper 404, so Google still has those images in the index. Again, it's fairly interesting. One thing is you don't want to mess with anybody. You don't want to mess with somebody who knows how to manipulate, Google search. And this is just one example of one of those cases. Anyway, thanks so much for listening to the Search Buzz Video Recap. My name again is Barry Schwartz, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week. This is a Search Buzz Video Recap. Today is Friday, February 4th. Everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.